Well, the hacking of Syncom's Twitter and YouTube accounts just a day ago has gotten a lot of media attention. It is worth noting that hacking a Twitter account, any Twitter account, is not difficult. All you need is a password. The same for YouTube. It's not as if Syncom's servers were hacked. But the optics of this story make it sound as if pro-ISIS groups, or even ISIS itself, came after the U.S. and got into Syncom. They did not. Well, now President Obama has spoken on the issue and is talking about legislation to help prevent, he says, future hacks. And that is worth digging into. Earlier, I spoke with RT correspondent Ameera David, and I first asked her what we know about the new legislation President Obama is proposing.
Well, we've often heard President Obama refer to the digital world as the wild, wild west when it comes to cyber activity, and now he's apparently trying to tackle it. In terms of specifics, this bill is proposing a lot of different things, including giving law enforcement more authority to criminalize the sale of stolen financial information, such as credit card and bank account numbers, creating a federal law that standardizes the requirement that companies notify their customers of security breaches within a specific time frame. I think it's a 30-day period. But the big one is that it enables cybersecurity information sharing between the public and private sectors. I want to take a listen to part of what President Obama had to say about that.
We're going to keep on at this as a government, but we're also going to be working with the private sector to detect, prevent, defend, deter against attacks, and to recover quickly from any disruptions or damage.
So President Obama really reiterated in this speech that he wanted to work with the private sector and really build this public-private partnership, saying that that was the key to preventing against these kinds of attacks.
And not really surprising that he's saying that. I got to tell you, when you hear the president say that, it sounds very much like what he's really saying is he's now going to back CISPA, which Congressman Dutch Ruppersberger has announced he's going to reintroduce to Congress. As you probably know, Ameera, he's referred to as the NSA's representative in Congress.
And that's the concern. You know, we're already seeing organizations like the Electronic Frontier Foundation, who is really big against CISPA, come out against this newly proposed legislation. And what these organizations are most worried about is that it sounds like CISPA. It allows the same stipulation, the sharing of internet information between the U.S. government and corporations. And of course, the critique is that that legislation and now this new legislation could set a very dangerous precedent by allowing even more of our personal information to be transferred to intelligence and agencies and law enforcement agencies in the name of security. And of course, with no liability, I should mention, to the companies who do so. In fact, those companies will get partial immunity from lawsuits whenever they quickly share data on cyber threats with the Department of Homeland Security. So needless to say, the EFF and others are concerned that we're looking at another version of CISPA Part 3, if you will, recycling some of those same ideas and perhaps posing a threat to consumer privacy.
Well, and again, you know, the president talks about this issue. He had said that he would veto CISPA if it got to his desk, but of course he also said he'd do that with the NDAA 3 times. But in this case, you know, the administration keeps talking about privacy concerns and wanting to weigh it. But at the end of the day, is there anything being carved out here that actually addresses privacy, or is it all just kind of lip service?
Well, President Obama is trying this time around to distinguish, I think, from CISPA, and the administration has already said that it would safeguard personal privacy by requiring these companies to comply with certain restrictions, such as removing unnecessary personal information of people, of users, and of course, taking measures to protect whatever personal information is ultimately collected. And President Obama did touch again on that in his speech today. But this all goes back, of course, to the trust issue. You know, in light of multiple NSA revelations in which we learned ordinary Americans are being surveilled, are being spied on, can the public trust that the government will adhere to those guidelines? It's harder to do today than, say, it was 3 years ago before all of this sort of blew up. So this bill will likely meet some resistance, I would imagine. But the question is whether that resistance will be enough to stop it from going through. President Obama said he would veto CISPA, which was really sort of the stopgap there, but he's backing this legislation. So if the House and Senate can get on the same page, which the president did speak to, I believe, the leaders from both chambers earlier this morning, and they said that they were on board with this, we could really see this get passed.
Well, and again, you know, Republicans and Democrats seem to agree on one thing. They don't really care about our privacy, but it is important to note that CISPA in its current form would not have prevented the Twitter or YouTube hacks yesterday, and many analysts say it wouldn't have prevented the Sony hack either. Definitely more discussion for another day. RT correspondent Ameera David, appreciate your reporting on this. Thank you.